Did the stock market finally bottom? Keep watching and I'll show you what to look for to find out. All right, so did the market finally bottom? Honestly, no one knows, and we won't know for sure until after the fact, but there are a few things we can look for to tell us that we might get a rally and get a better trading environment for taking trades to the long side. So the first thing we want to see is how individual stocks are setting up. Are they forming proper bases, or are the charts just showing no signs of institutional accumulation? If you ask me, I say we do have stocks setting up. We have some that are already breaking out. We'll cover those later in the video. Second thing we want to look for is a follow-through day. So now we're 3 days into an attempted rally in October. That means that we can be on the lookout for a follow-through day starting tomorrow, which would be day 4. If you don't know what a follow-through day is, it's when one of the major averages moves up over 1.25% on heavier volume than the previous day. So if we take a look at the NASDAQ, you can see Friday we were here testing these June lows where we found some nice support and we bounced on Monday. So Monday would be the first day of our attempted rally. Tuesday would be day 2, and today, Wednesday, was day 3. This means that tomorrow could be day 4 of the rally. That means it's the first day that we can get a follow-through day. The way that happens is if tomorrow the NASDAQ's up over 1.25% and we have higher volume than today. So one thing to look at today is look at how low this volume is. It sets a very low threshold on the volume side. So the question is, will we get a price gain large enough to match the requirements for a follow-through day? It's very possible that we get one tomorrow, or it's very likely that it could happen on Friday if the market reacts positively to the non-farm payroll numbers. Okay, now that we've covered what we're looking for in the indexes, let's look at some of those individual stocks and the setups there. Okay, first individual stock we're going to look at is ANET, or Arista Networks. This had a prior uptrend here of about 49% and has now formed a proper double bottom base that's about 18% deep. We also have the relative strength line hitting new highs, which is something that's always a positive to see. Looking at the daily chart, you can see we have this 114.23 previous low where we rallied up. We didn't quite make it to the high. We came down, we undercut that previous low, and now we're pushing up the right side, getting closer to that 126.70 standard pivot. You could have started buying earlier using a mini coil. We have this large green bar here with 3 smaller bars nested inside of it. Your pivot would have been the high of this green bar, which we gapped above on Tuesday. We found some resistance at the 10-week moving average, which is this light blue line on my chart. And then today we did get back above that, which is nice to see. I also like how the 21 EMA and the 8 EMA, which is the green and the purple line on my chart, have started sloping upward again. So this is one to watch. It could come back and fill this gap, maybe test those moving averages, or if the market wants to rally, we can push higher and take out this standard pivot. Okay, LPL Financial Holdings, LPLA. This is one I didn't quite see a setup on over the weekend. However, with the market pressure coming off, this is right at 52-week highs, making a new high yesterday and today. So again, this is one you want to be watching because of that relative strength. Again, if you look at the weekly chart, we have the relative strength line also at new highs. Again, nothing I'm seeing here yet, but definitely want to keep an eye on this one if it provides a nice risk versus reward entry. Okay, MELI. This is another one that's gone on to form a nice double bottom base. Looking here at the weekly chart, we had this run up from the lows of about 80%, and now we've gone on, we formed a double bottom base. I don't like that the relative strength line is not at new highs. However, it is pointing in the right direction towards that 1 o'clock range. Another nice thing in this base is the larger volume has been these nice blue bars showing accumulation. And this week we've gone back above our 10-week and our 40-week line. If we look at the daily chart, again, we had a nice earnings gap up here. We came down, made an 8/12/46 low, tried to rally, didn't get quite to that previous high, came down, we undercut the previous low. Now we're building up this right side. And just like ANET, this one had a mini coil here. So this large green bar, 2 bars nested inside of it. We took out the high of the large green bar, triggering your entry. And we've pushed higher from there, hitting some resistance at its 200-day moving average. but we're above the 50 and the 10-week line, which is good. This could set a nice another mini coil if we get an inside day tomorrow, and then your trigger would be above the high of yesterday at 955.56, which would also coincide with taking out that 200-day moving average and get you in slightly lower than the 1,011.99 standard pivot. I also like how the 21 and the 8 EMAs are starting to turn up on this one as well. Okay, ON on semiconductor, another one forming a double bottom base. If you haven't noticed a theme, I'm seeing a lot of double bottom bases here. So we had a previous run up here of about 70%, and now we've gone on to form a double bottom base. Again, the RS line is at new highs, which is great to see, and we've gotten back above this 10-week moving average. Going into the daily chart, you can see here, previous low, 65.03. We rallied up, not quite to the highs. Now we came down, undercut it, and we're working up this right side, moving closer to the standard pivot here of 72.92. So this one today, back above all its moving averages, the 8, the 21, and the 50 all sloping up. So this is holding up very nicely and could get to that standard pivot soon. Okay, PCTY, Velocity Holdings. This is one we talked about on Sunday. That's holding up very well. We have this relative strength line at new highs. We have nice skyscrapers of blue volume here. Today, we're only 3 days into the week, and we have already done above average volume, and we're pushing the highs. This one didn't quite form a double bottom base because this second area here never undercut the previous low, but this is holding up very well. If we go ahead and look into the daily chart, we had this nice trend line. We paused there yesterday, and then today we went ahead and took that out again with very nice volume. This one's acting great. We had the earnings gap up, came down. We never filled that gap, showing tremendous strength. Based here, put in this trend line, and now we're pushing above it. We'll see if this can get back towards the previous highs or if we'll set up another low risk entry around here to add to our position. Okay, Shockwave Medical. This is another one that is forming a base. Needs a little more time to clarify what shape it's going to be. It could end up being a cup. It could go on to form something else. Still waiting to see. We're about 6 weeks into it, but this one is holding up tremendously well. We're back above our 10-week moving average, and our relative strength line is right near the highs. If you go into the daily chart, you can see we have this nice multi-touch trend line. We tried to get above it here. However, we did get slammed back down into the 50-day moving average when the market was being very weak. We've rallied back up. We touched that trend line again, and now we've gone quiet with a nice day on low volume. We'll see if we can consolidate a few more days here, or if this is just ready to push that trend line if the market is willing. Okay, TTD, another one that had a very nice run up here and now has gone on to form a double bottom base. Relative strength line, not quite at the highs, but it is moving in the right direction. The volume pattern is also very nice. You can see we had this very large up week. Volumes come down considerably as it consolidates, and then we have another larger up week, and we'll see what this week ends up bringing. If you go into the daily chart, we have this earnings gap up. It does look like we filled the gap, but that allowed us to undercut this $59 previous low and form a proper double bottom base. We had a mini coil here. If you zoom in, we had this large green bar with 3 bars nested inside of it. We took out the pivot of the high of this green bar yesterday. Today we came back down and we tested these moving averages. The 21, the 8, and the 50 are all pretty much bunched up together. So we'll see if we can get back above the 10-week and this 200-day and work our way towards the 67.77 standard pivot there. Okay, Wolf Speed. This is another one with the relative strength line at the new highs. However, we don't have a proper basing pattern yet. We had a very nice run up here, over 100%, and now we need to consolidate a little bit. We did come down. We tested this 50-day moving average, and we have bounced very strongly from there. If you look at the daily chart, we took out these previous highs, which was a pivot of a high type flag base, got slammed back down into the 10-week and the 50-day moving average. We formed a mini coil right there, right near the 10-week line. On Tuesday, we gapped above the pivot, which was the high of this red bar. And now we've put in another inside day today. So we'll see if we don't get a follow through day tomorrow, or it's a nice quiet day. We could form another mini coil here, depending on the action, which would give us another place to get long this at 117.84. Okay, we have a couple more to go through. Will Scott Mobile Mini Holdings Corp. This one, another one with the relative strength line at the new highs. We had a nice prior uptrend. We went on to form a nice double bottom base within a flat base because this is so shallow. It's only corrected 11%. If we go into the daily chart, you can see the 39.18 previous low. We rallied up, came back, undercut that, and now we're working up this right side. We hit this previous high here, 43.71 to the penny today. So we'll see if we consolidate a little bit here before trying to push higher. Okay, last one we're going to cover today is Yelp. We had a nice uptrend here of about 50%. And once again, we formed another double bottom base. Our RS line is at new highs. And if we go into the daily chart, you can see our previous low, 33.26. We undercut that. And now we're working up this right side. We're above all our moving averages. They're all sloping the right direction. And we have a 36.34 standard pivot. So this is another one to watch if we can break through this 36.34 on an increase in volume. Okay, last things we're going to look at are going to be two stocks that were holding up well and now are starting to break down that we talked about on Sunday's video. So the first one is Celsius, CELH. We had this head and shoulders top I talked about. We broke the neckline, filled this gap, and then now we've been rejected at the neckline again as we built this bear flag. Interesting today, we closed pretty much right at the high of this day right before the gap up. So again, just watching this, nothing to do here. It could break down further. It could go on to form a new base. It still has potential to make a new double bottom base. Nothing to do here, but something to keep an eye on. Could also get a huge break above one of these moving averages. If something like that happens and we reclaim the 50-day and the 10-week moving average on heavy volume, that would get my attention. But for now, nothing to do there. Okay, last stock we'll talk about today is Enphase, ENPH. This one broke its bear flag. We talked about this on Sunday, how if it broke that, it could definitely see lower prices. Today that happened. The volume was massive and it filled this second gap. We still have this gap down lower. Not sure that it'll fill. It might not. We'll see what price does. So this does look like it actually formed a mini head and shoulders top. There's your left shoulder. This would be your head in the center. And now there's our right shoulder, which coincides with the bear flag that we broke and moved lower. So nothing to do here. I would avoid this one for now. We'll see if this ends up setting a low risk entry, or like I was saying with Celsius, if this can get back above all these moving averages on an increase in volume, that would be something that would get my attention. And then I might be looking for a trade to the long side. But until then, I would avoid this. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, found any of the information useful, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button below to stay up to date with all my new videos.